Here, use it as a writing pad.
Yes, ma'am.
It helps.
Thank you.
And it doesn't use it back.
All right, I call this meeting to order. This is a meeting of the Littlestown Area Board of School Directors. This is a live in-person meeting taking place in the public in accordance with the Sunshine Act. By attending or commenting publicly in this meeting, you're consenting to the recording, retention, and future viewing of this meeting. Carrie, would you please call the roll?
Mary Brenneman.
Here.
Janelle Ressler. Here. Stephen Yerger.
Here.
Nick Lovell.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We now recognize members of the public who have signed up to provide comment as stipulated in policy 903. When your name is called, please approach the podium and state your name, confirm you are a resident or taxpayer in the district, and your topic of discussion for the record. Please direct your comments to the board as a whole, not to an individual. We ask that you limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. The privilege to speak may be interrupted. Your vote or recess of the meeting may be called by the chair. The speaker does not observe reasonable decorum or rule of conduct. Thank you. Donna Bayless.
Good evening. Hope you all had a wonderful summer. We're back at it. Glad to see you here. Couple points tonight, just to start off with an easy one. Interesting point for the board. It might be a good idea to place a sign on the door, the boardroom door, when the board is in closed session, so that the board's not interrupted by the public as it approaches the public meeting start time for, like, for example, this meeting this evening. I didn't know you guys were meeting, and I knocked on the, actually I went to open the door and it was locked. So apologies for disruption, but in the future it might be good to just put a little sign on the door so we know not to come in or interrupt. Okay. So on to your policy for 827, conflict of interest. I read this policy over. It's weak at best, and it's vague at best. As far as it actually giving meat or a clear understanding to a reasonable amount if staff member, board member, employee, etc., were to receive some sort of nominal something, a goodie or whatever. It says, like, on the idea of a reasonable amount. It doesn't describe what a reasonable amount is. A reasonable amount, or an amount to one person, might be a different nominal amount to another. So if you guys were looking to approve this and move it forward this evening, I would only ask you to look into that piece of this particular policy, just for the sole purpose of just making it clearer. No objecting, I'm not objecting, I'm not saying it's horrible, I'm just saying it might be a good idea to look at it just a little bit further in regards to maybe setting an approvable amount. So when I say that, so like say somebody gets maybe, I don't know, $20 or less of maybe some flowers or something for some little event or something, okay? Say if it's, and I'm not saying it has to be 20, I'm just using this as a simple example. But, so if it were, say, like $18 or $15, something like that, it wouldn't necessarily be in violation of the ethics policy. because it would be within that realm of an amount. Are you following? But as it states in this policy, it doesn't say that. It just says it's vague because it says a reasonable amount, right? But like I said, a reasonable amount to me may not be $20, and a reasonable amount to somebody else may be like $50. See what I'm saying? So, or maybe even $100. So it makes it just makes it kind of vague. And for an ethics policy, I'm sure you guys probably want it pretty tight, clean, easy to read, easy to understand, clear cut. So I would ask you to just look at that one more time. I didn't know if you were looking to vote on this evening and try to move it forward to the full board or not. But if that was the case, that's what I would say, what I would recommend. Is just look at that piece one more time. Thank you very much for your time. Welcome back.
Okay. We have a presentation tonight on the agenda. I think that this was per my request back before the summer from our kindergarten team and Mr. Moran. So you all are welcome to discuss the kindergarten summer program and how that goes.
So I just wanted to say, as they're transitioning up, two things. One, I'm very proud of what they have put in as far as fine work and effort. I think the results of that hard work has paid off through what we were able to accomplish this year. I don't want to steal their thunder, so I want to share that with you. And then also, just when we went back to that piece talking about student-centered, I'm very proud of this group. They always put students first. And so I know they committed a lot of time, energy, and effort to what we accomplished, and I'm happy to hear you have a chance to hear this year.
All right, we're back. Yes, yes. We're going to start off with we'll hand out the parent, the actual paper that we gave out at each of the events, kind of with suggestions for things the parents could work on. So there'll be a slide that comes and shows that. I just figured it's going to be too small to see it on the screen, so we made a copy for you. So we want to start off saying thank you very much for having us this evening. Thank you very, very much for supporting this program, because we found it was very helpful to us and to the families. So we'll tell you a little bit about what went on in this program, so you can go ahead and skip to the next one. We started off, the very first event we had was during the school year, and so of course the families were invited into the school. That was our kindergarten preview night. At that event, we had 78 students and families arrive. Unfortunately, I can't give you the data of how many had enrolled at that point, but it was a pretty good percentage of the families who had enrolled at that point actually came to that event. And at that event, we were able to welcome them into the classrooms. We separated the children from their families to allow a parent information session, and then also got to have the children see what it was going to be like to be in the kindergarten classroom, and then together the families and their child got to tour the school. So that was nice, because the school was still looking really nice at that point in the year and colorful and inviting. So that we were pleased with that event. There were, as with anything, it's a learning curve. So we will make a few changes that we will talk about, throughout the year as we plan it for next year. But next, after that, we had an event scheduled for the heat wave of the century. No power. And it was actually after the power came back on was when the thing was supposed to be. But we're like, yeah, I don't really think the families of these kindergartners are going to want to come to Alloway Creek and hang out outside in the heat, having not had heat, air conditioning for 3 or 4 days. So we rescheduled it, and we think that probably that's that's part of the reason we only had 37 children and families attend that one. But that one was fun. If you go to the next slide, you can see our invitation for it. The point of it was an hour long on our playground, and it was to get to meet the teachers And we had our information packet that you have now, the June packet, and they got to meet their new friends and have a popsicle. And we even had animals. So we had a hairless cat and chicken and bunnies, oh, some interesting animals. So the kids got to you know, interact with the animals. And so if you go to the next slide, you see the social media post that we put up to say it's changed. So it was originally supposed to be June 25th, but we changed it a week later to July 2nd. And that's basically the same information, just a new date. And there's the paper that you have in front of you, that the focus of the June activity were fine motor skills. So we had a cutting and gluing activity and math number recognition. So in the pictures, when we go on to the next screen, you'll see an activity that we did that allowed them to cut some numbers apart and glue them on a headband in numerical order. And so that was the academic focus of that event. We invited the Gettysburg Times to come, and they came in rare form. We got a whole lot of pictures and a whole article. So we didn't actually, my goal when I left here last time was to be above the fold. We didn't actually make it above the fold, but we did get on the front page, just not above the fold. So, you know, that was good. So all those, that was like a 2 different page spread of pictures of us at that event. And then the next event wasn't that long after that one, because it was had already been scheduled for July 22nd. That one we had 47 incoming students and families. That one was called Buses, Bounce Houses, and Books. That one was met with its own problems, because we didn't realize that the parking lot was going to be redone, and so we weren't able to get to where we really wanted to be. So we had to reschedule, and we had to cut the bus. The bus they were only able to get on it. It wasn't possible for us to have them get a bus ride at that event, which was, we had advertised that we were going to get to ride the bus, and then they didn't. But they got to get on the bus, and our focus for that one was rhyming, the idea of rhyming and read alouds, but specifically rhyming, and also names. We had papers ready for them to do name tracing, learn, and that they were able to take home with them. So we provided them with materials to take home to practice writing their names with a dry erase marker and a tracer sheet that they could practice writing their names between then and the start of school. So, and then we had a bounce house that they could jump in as well. So there you can see the focus, academic focus, and suggestions for things that they could work on, as well as the upcoming events after that. And again, the newspaper came and took pictures. So there we have, and they were able to move around at their own pace. It was kind of like do the name writing as long as you want to, and then go to the read aloud and stay there as long as you want to, and go in the bounce house. So it was very free form out in front of the school, because the parking lot was not available. So our playground was not really available for that event, but it's okay. We had a nice space, and it was kind of shady over there where we were, so that was good. The one comment that we had, at orientation, we produced a survey, which I could have brought for you, but I didn't. But we produced a survey that just asked them how they felt about it. Which ones did they come to, and how they rated them, and did they have any suggestions? So this was a suggestion. The buses, books, and bounce house event was the best. It had an activity that reached and engaged every part of the child: touring a bus, exploring name writing, directions, and motor skills, reading a story, and physical play with jumping. It was great that kids could move from each section to the other freely. So that comment was specifically about that event, and we had lots of positive comments, but that one was specifically for that one. So then we moved to the carnival, and during the carnival, we were set up at the carnival in a tent outside the bingo stand every night, from 5:30 to 8:30 or even later. And we had face painting, free face painting, we had parent information, we gave out any information, any tracer sheets, anything that they missed from the other two events, we gave out to families who came and talked to us. The interesting thing for that one was that by the time we had that event, they knew who their teacher was. And so they, in a lot of cases, got to come to the tent and actually meet their real teacher that they were going to have. So that worked out really well for us. And then we had another information paper that was for August. A lot of social emotional stuff and encouraging them to start eating on their own, because that's a problem at the beginning of kindergarten. So there was some of those kind of suggestions for that one. And then most recently, we had kindergarten orientation. For that, we had 97 incoming students and families, and that was held in a two-session event. So some of them came in the first session, some of them came in the second session. They got to come into our classrooms. Some people did a scavenger hunt. Some people just did a meet and greet. We also designed a table cover so we could do a start of school commitment signing, and then if they are a sports star when they graduate from high school, they'll do the same thing when they get to be seniors. So that worked out pretty well, and we were able to give them t-shirts because of this program. Every class has its own color. Today happened to be Purple Day, which is why I have mine on and no one else does. But my class is the purple class, so I'm wearing my shirt because that was our day, and it was really cool because they almost all had them on today, my class. But then they put the shirts on for the signing event, and we had a photographer take pictures of them so we can share those pictures with the families and the certificate. So from our survey, we had some suggestions from parents, and these were things that were suggested on the survey, and we will take them into consideration when we're planning the next one. I don't know that we will actually really try to incorporate them all because some of them are just impossible to incorporate, but one of the ones was demonstrating the drop-off and walking to class, and that's possibly doable. We could show them where they will actually come into the school. We may be able to incorporate that. I'm really in favor of having an event after the classes are announced. We had the carnival, but we weren't all at the carnival at the same time, and not every kid went to the carnival. So I would like to maybe have one of our events, if we are invited to have this next year, we would maybe have an event later so that we could actually invite the kiddos that are going to be in our classes to our class, so they can see each other and they can meet us before school starts. Some people didn't like the times because it conflicted with soccer camp, and it's always going to conflict with something since you can't take everybody's vacation into account and stuff. So, I recognize that we need to be aware of schedules, but I don't know that we can really plan for all of that. The lunch in the cafeteria would be another thing that we would possibly like to incorporate if we have access to the building. That's tricky because I know the custodial staff is working hard in the summer and maybe they don't want people traipsing through the cafeteria. Yeah, and start later, another timing thing. We made it early because we figured these little kids should be going to bed, but but maybe not at 6:30. So we'll have a little bit later, and then maybe an activity. We did some activities, but we'll consider what we could do at the carnival that might help with the bonding. But then if we go on to the next one, we have the positive comments, which are very satisfying. That people like to meet the teachers and interact. They like to see their new friends, get familiar with the school, and we said amazing. I know many were blown away by the time and planning that was put into these events. So that was really satisfying to read that because go through reading negative things. It's nice to hear something positive. So so I think that's a basic rundown of how it went. We have noticed, we continue to notice things. Like we had a little girl today who had a terrible time coming into school. She had to basically be carried in, crying, hysterically crying. Oh, okay, look back at our data. She did not come to a single one of our things over the summer. So I think that you could probably show a correlation between ones that actually were able to take advantage of what we did and it made their start of school better. That's not to say there's anything, that those parents who didn't bring them did anything wrong, it's just we need to really make sure we try to make an opportunity for every child to come, so that nobody has that level of anxiety when they come to school. So we just continue to see the benefits of it. So, you guys?
I just have one thing to say. While we were going through the events, which seemed like 100 years ago now, on the 9th day of school, but something also that we didn't really take into account is how comfortable the parents felt by meeting us. They didn't know who their teacher was, but the comfort they found. I remember Mr. Moran and I were talking to it ended up being Jen's parent, and just the anxiety the mom had, and just being able to have some time with a teacher, one of the staff, and of course the principal to ease that. And I also want to bring up just how positive every event was in the carnival, seeing all of our former students and moms and dads, and just like, it was a good thing that we were representing not just kindergarten, but all of
And ones that will be
Littlestown.
coming in the future. We did
Right.
have some that are 4, you know, and they're not coming this year, but it put a good feeling in them about what was to come, which is really what we're trying to establish here.
And, we are a huge part of this community. We can say district is the heart of Littlestown, and
So,
we're proud of ourselves.
do you have any questions for us?
Well, my question, I would say, is, first of all, I've heard a lot of great things. So bravo, good job you guys did this year. How did you guys feel the effectiveness, and this still might be revealing itself as you go into the beginning of the school year here. How did you feel the effectiveness was of this format versus the previous format?
I personally feel like we touched so many more families, because when the other program only allotted for so many, this included everybody. So it didn't exclude anybody. So it was nicer that everybody could come. And we also had families that would bring their little brothers and sisters, older brothers and sisters. So it really was, the effectiveness really is so that they could all come.
Yeah, and I think the difference is, in the past, I've done the other program, and you had the connection with the kids that were in your class, and maybe even the kids in the other class, but you didn't really have a connection with the parents.
And the family.
You know, and then once that got over, those kids went into somebody else's kindergarten class anyway, so